The creature was dubbed the Dover Demon by a young investigator named Lauren Coleman, and it hasn't been seen since. Its true identity still remains a mystery. But one thing is certain. All three witnesses made claims that were nearly identical, and to this day, they stand by their stories.
In 1977, a quiet, unassuming town in Massachusetts was about to be thrust into a mystery that would leave its residents questioning everything they knew about the world around them. On the night of April 21st, a 17-year-old driving down a winding road just outside Dover found himself staring at something that defied all logic. Illuminated by the headlights of his car, a creature with glowing orange eyes, an oversized head, and long, slender fingers gripping a stone wall emerged from the darkness. At that moment, fear rippled through him. Was this a prank? A cryptid? Or something far darker? What followed was nothing short of a nightmare that Dover would never wake up from. A wave of strange, unsettling sightings swept through the town, each encounter more terrifying than the last. It was as if some dark presence had descended upon this quiet corner of New England. A creature had appeared, and it wasn't just passing through. It was here to stay. The town's peaceful reputation, one built on generations of familiarity and comfort, was shattered, and there was no going back. From that moment on, Dover would be forever changed.
He was absolutely terrified. Its head was about the same size as its body. It was really huge. It had no visible mouth, no nose, no ears, but it had two huge eyes.
As the sightings continued, so did the questions. What was this thing? How could it exist in a place like Dover? Was it a trick of the mind? A mistake? Or was something truly unnatural at work here? Why had this creature chosen Dover? Of all the places in the world, why now? Why here? These weren't just the kind of questions that kept people up at night. They were the kind of questions that made them afraid to even look out their windows after dark. What was happening in this town? And more importantly, what had they really seen? A nightmare unfolds. The story begins, as many do, in the most ordinary of ways. One quiet evening, one teenager, one lonely road. The kind of night where the darkness seems to stretch on forever, where the only sounds are the hum of the engine and the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. This was a road that the young driver had traveled many times before. His headlights cut through the dark, illuminating the empty stretch of road ahead. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. Out of nowhere, something emerged from the shadows.
And as he looked at it, it turned to look at him. He was absolutely terrified. Its head was about the same size as its body. It was really huge. It had no visible mouth, no nose, no ears, but it had two huge eyes, glowing orange. They were round, and Bill said they looked just like glass marble.
At first, it was just a blur, a shape, too indistinct to make out in the glare of the headlights. But as the car drew closer, the details began to sharpen, and what the driver saw, what he had to see, was no ordinary animal or person. No, it was something entirely otherworldly. There it was, perched on a broken stone wall, its body unnaturally still. At first it seemed like a trick of the light, but the closer he got, the clearer it became. Its eyes, they were glowing, bright orange, like the last embers of a dying fire. They seemed to burn with a strange intensity, locking onto the driver's gaze, unblinking, unwavering. The rest of the creature's features were just as unnerving. Its skin was smooth and tan, no hair, nothing to distract from its unnatural form. It didn't have the markings or texture that any human or animal should. Its fingers were long, slender, and too delicate for its body, gripping the stone wall with an unsettling strength, as if it were preparing to climb down and come after him. But perhaps the most disturbing feature was its head, too large, almost comically so, like a watermelon perched atop a fragile frame. It was disproportionate, strange, and out of place, like something that had been assembled from a nightmare. The head tapered off into an almost skull-like shape, and there were no distinct facial features. No mouth, no nose, just those haunting eyes. Eyes that seemed to peer directly into the driver's soul. Terrified, he slammed his foot on the gas pedal, speeding away with his heart pounding in his chest. His mind raced. What had he seen? Was it real? Could it have been a trick of the night, his imagination playing cruel tricks on him? The sighting spread. But when he reported it, no one could believe it. They thought it was a joke, a prank, a product of overactive teenage minds. Surely it was a mistake, right? But it wasn't a mistake. The sightings didn't stop. Not by a long shot. Within hours, more people came forward, claiming they had seen the exact same thing. They had encountered the creature in the same eerie, quiet part of town. Each description was just as unsettling, just as terrifying. The details were strikingly similar. Long fingers, glowing eyes, and that unmistakable head. No one could dismiss it any longer. This wasn't a one-off incident. It was real. The creature was real. The creature that had been dubbed the Dover Demon quickly became something more than just a local legend. It was now an undeniable part of the town's identity. It wasn't something anyone could just shake off or explain away. For days, people whispered about it in the streets. Everyone had a theory, but no one had an answer. Was it a creature from the depths of folklore? A new cryptid, never before seen by human eyes? Or was it something even darker? Something that came from a place not meant for human eyes to see? The sightings didn't stop, and neither did the questions. The creature refused to be ignored. It haunted the edges of Dover, slipping in and out of the shadows. Its legacy only grew, each new sighting adding to the terror and mystery. And with each retelling, the creature's legend only grew larger, darker, and more disturbing. What was this creature, really? And why had it come to Dover? The truth remains as elusive as the creature itself. But one thing is certain. What happened in Dover on those nights would haunt the town for years to come. It wasn't just a fleeting moment of terror. It was the beginning of something that still leaves people wondering. What did we really see? Let's take a step back and set the scene. Dover, Massachusetts, was the kind of place that could be easily overlooked. A quaint, peaceful town where life moved at a slow and steady pace. Everyone knew everyone else. Neighbors greeted each other by name, and the biggest talk of the week wasn't some strange happening or scandal, but rather whether or not the local bakery still had apple pie left in stock. The kind of town where the most exotic thing people encountered was maybe a stray dog wandering down Main Street. But all of that would change after one fateful night. That night, a creature would emerge from the shadows, forever altering the town's quiet reputation. The creature, which would later become known as the Dover Demon, was not just some fleeting moment of fear, a figment of a tired mind or a shadowy trick played by moonlight. No, it was the beginning of something far more chilling, something that would grip the town in ways no one could have predicted. A series of strange encounters, each one more baffling than the last, began to unfold over a span of just a couple of days. And though each witness described something slightly different angles, different times, the core details of what they saw remained remarkably consistent. What's even more puzzling is that this creature didn't just show up for one person in one isolated moment. No, it affected several individuals, people who had no connection to each other, across a very short window of time. And here's the thing. The descriptions weren't just similar. They were strikingly alike. Each one added a piece to the puzzle, and each time the creature was spotted, the legend grew. The witness accounts were too closely matched, too eerily similar to be dismissed as coincidence. Could it be that these people were all experiencing some shared hallucination? Or was there something far more tangible, far more terrifying, stalking the streets of Dover? The fact that so many people, from different walks of life, in different places, saw the same thing in such a short time frame, well, that's what makes this case so baffling. It's not just a single oddball sighting. It's a pattern. And patterns can't be ignored. So, what was really happening in Dover? Something so strange, so impossible, that it left people questioning not just what they saw, but what they could possibly have been looking at. The next encounter. A few hours after the first encounter, John Baxter found himself driving through the very same stretch of road near Dover where the creature had first appeared. What were the odds? It was late, the air thick with the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. The headlights of their car cut through the night like a blade when, there it was again, the creature. This time, it wasn't perched on a stone wall. No, this time it was moving, walking on two legs, just like any human. But there was nothing human about it. The way it moved was unnervingly fast, almost unnatural, as if it was gliding instead of walking, its slender limbs extending with each step in a way that made their hearts race. And then, just as quickly as it had appeared, it vanished into the night, dissolving into the shadows like a nightmare fading with the dawn. They sat there, stunned, not sure whether to believe their own eyes. Had they seen what they thought they had? Or had their minds simply tricked them in the darkness? The last sighting. But this wasn't a solitary experience. No, this eerie creature was now becoming a fixture in their lives, its presence lingering in the air. The very next day, two more witnesses, Abby Brabham and Will Tainter, drove through the same road at dusk. As they passed the familiar stretch, something caught their eye by the side of the road. There, crouched in the shadows, was the creature once more. But this time, its eyes weren't the glowing orange of the first sighting. No, they were a sickly green, eerily illuminated in the fading light. The creature itself was unmistakable. Its appearance burned into the minds of every witness who saw it. The large, misshapen head, which seemed to dwarf the rest of its body, was too unnatural to ignore. Its skin, smooth and tan, almost unnervingly perfect, offered no explanation for its existence. And the stillness. The way it didn't move, not until it was ready, frozen in place like some kind of nightmarish sculpture. Even with the change in eye color from orange to green, it was clear. This creature matched every description that had come before it. Each new sighting reinforced what the previous ones had said, creating a pattern that was too consistent to be explained away by coincidence. But the most chilling part? It felt as though the creature had come straight out of the deepest, darkest recesses of the human mind. A thing that didn't belong in this world. Not in Dover, not anywhere. And yet, here it was, standing right in front of them, its eyes glowing with an eerie, otherworldly light. So, what was happening in Dover? Could it be possible that these four young witnesses, separated by age, time, and location, were all seeing the same thing? Could they all have somehow imagined the exact same creature, down to the last horrifying detail, at the same time, just days apart? Was this some freak accident of perception, or was something much darker stirring in the shadows of this otherwise peaceful town? The odds seemed slim. It didn't add up. And yet, the creature was real to them. So real that even the most skeptical couldn't completely dismiss the terrifying possibility that something otherworldly had visited their town. Could it have been a prank? A cleverly executed hoax designed to frighten the unsuspecting? Or was it something far more sinister? A creature that didn't belong in their world. A being with an agenda they couldn't understand. What if it wasn't just a passing encounter, but a careful, deliberate observation? Something watching, waiting for the right moment to make its true purpose known. The answers weren't coming, and the confusion only grew with each new report. What was clear, though, was that something extraordinary was unfolding in Dover. This wasn't just a one-off sighting, a fleeting moment of terror experienced by one person or an overactive imagination. No, this was happening to multiple people, across different times, in the same place. A creature, consistent in its features, was appearing over and over again. The authorities, rattled by the growing number of sightings, scrambled to investigate, hoping for some rational explanation. But each new witness only added to the questions, not the answers. The investigations failed to bring clarity. The sightings failed to fade. And as the mystery deepened, so did the town's sense of unease. No one in Dover could escape the lingering question. What was out there in the darkness? Something that couldn't be explained, something that seemed too real, too terrifying to ignore. And the people of Dover were left with a chilling uncertainty. Had they truly seen the impossible? Or was there something more to this story? Something that only the shadows could reveal? Theories and speculations. As the mystery unfolded, theories about the creature's true nature began to emerge. Cryptozoologists, UFO enthusiasts, and those with an interest in the supernatural were quick to draw comparisons with other known, mysterious beings. One theory that caught fire was the idea that the creature was a mimi, a small, mischievous entity from Canadian folklore. These creatures were said to have oversized heads, no noses, and long, spindly fingers, much like the Dover demon. There's a theory that suggests the creature terrorizing Dover could have been a Mimi, a being from the deep, tangled woods of Canadian folklore. These creatures are known for their penchant for mischief, often lurking around water and causing trouble in the most unexpected of ways. Mimi are described as small, strange beings with oversized heads, no noses, and long, thin fingers, characteristics that seem to align eerily well with the descriptions given by those who saw the Dover demon. Could it be that this was a Mimi, just as elusive and bizarre as the legends would suggest? But then, a troubling question arises. How did a creature like that end up in Dover? After all, Mimi is primarily associated with the lore of the Cree people in Canada. Dover, Massachusetts is a far cry from the water-laden regions where these creatures are said to roam. What brought it so far from its roots? Was it just a random appearance, or did something more complex, more intentional, lead it to that very stretch of road on that fateful night? As much as the Mimi theory is captivating, another more chilling possibility emerged as people connected the creature's description to the infamous Greys, the alien beings that have long been central to UFO lore and abduction stories. Greys are typically described as short, with bulbous heads, slender bodies, and large black almond-shaped eyes, details that seem unnervingly close to the creature described in Dover. These beings have been associated with countless abduction stories, often depicted as cold, calculating, and strangely indifferent to the humans they encounter. Could the Dover demon have been one of these Greys, perhaps a survivor of a UFO crash? The idea that the creature was extraterrestrial, stranded on Earth and trying to navigate its way back home, seems almost too strange to be true. But then again, in a world full of mysteries, what's more improbable? A creature from another planet visiting a quiet town, or a misidentified animal playing tricks on the mind? If it was indeed an alien, what was it doing in Dover? Was the town simply an unintended stop, a random destination on some cosmic journey that nobody would ever notice? Or could there have been something more sinister at play? Could this be the beginning of something much larger? An encounter that would reveal the true purpose of the creature's presence? Was it watching? Studying? Or was its appearance in Dover merely the first step in something far more disturbing? The questions only seem to multiply, and with each new theory, the mystery deepens, leaving behind only more uncertainty. As the theories piled up, so did the skepticism. Was it possible that the creature wasn't a cryptid or an alien at all? What if it was just a case of mistaken identity, an animal that had been misinterpreted in the heat of the moment? Could it have been a large animal suffering from mange, a condition that causes grotesque physical deformities and strange behavior? A raccoon with mange might look strange enough in the headlights of a car, or perhaps a moose or even a bear. Maybe the creature wasn't supernatural at all, but simply a frightened, injured animal behaving in a way that seemed completely out of place. The possibilities seemed endless, but the one thing that remained certain was the terror that gripped Dover. No explanation could fully settle the unsettling feeling that something was wrong. Something had crossed into the town that wasn't meant to be there. Each theory, each idea, only seemed to add more fuel to the fire of uncertainty. Was the creature an alien visitor, a cryptid from forgotten folklore, or simply a misunderstood animal in the wrong place at the wrong time? But here's the thing. When you encounter something as unusual as the Dover demon, your brain works overtime to make sense of it. Maybe the first few sightings were honest mistakes, but what about the subsequent ones? Were all these witnesses merely copying one another, or was something truly strange at work? What makes this case even more fascinating is the fact that the reports were spread out in a way that would make it difficult for one person's sighting to influence another. The creature seemed to be following a very specific pattern, moving along a defined path, yet always managing to remain elusive. Why did the sightings only last a few days before abruptly stopping? Was it simply a series of coincidental sightings that just happened to occur in the same place at the same time? One of the most popular theories among skeptics is that the Dover demon was a prank. It could have been a group of bored teenagers pulling off an elaborate hoax, or perhaps just one person with a vivid imagination leading others into believing something that wasn't real. After all, many of the witnesses were teenagers. Could they have been simply feeding off one another's excitement? Maybe they saw something that looked strange, but their minds filled in the blanks with the extraordinary, creating a creature out of what could have been a normal animal. However, there are a few things that don't add up with the prank theory. For one, Why would all the witnesses, even the skeptics, remain so adamant about their experiences? No one gained anything by claiming to have seen the Dover demon. In fact, most people in the town probably thought they were crazy for saying anything at all. And yet, each person, each teenager, stood by their account. They refused to change or retract their statements, even when pressed by the authorities. The mystery remains. To this day, the truth about the Dover demon remains elusive. No one has been able to definitively explain the sightings, and with each passing year, the creature grows more mysterious. It's not just a cryptid, it's a legend that continues to haunt the minds of anyone who dares to look into it. Cryptid hunters, UFO enthusiasts, and conspiracy theorists alike are drawn to the case, each one trying to unravel the mystery of what happened in that quiet New England town. The sightings, though brief, have left a mark on Dover, one that refuses to fade away. The story lingers, whispered about in hushed tones as its chilling details continue to spark interest. But as for me, if you were to ask what I think it was, I'd have to admit, I don't know. The truth is, there's no single answer. The evidence can be interpreted in so many ways. Was it an alien visitor, accidentally stranded on Earth? Or was it some ancient creature, a cryptid from forgotten myths, roaming the shadows? So, what do you think? Was it a cryptid, an alien, or just an animal we misunderstood in the heat of the moment? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let's get a conversation going. And remember, when it comes to the unknown, sometimes it's best to leave certain questions unanswered. After all, not every mystery needs to be solved. Some are meant to keep us on the edge of our seats, wondering what's out there. And maybe that's exactly how it should stay.
From September 29th through October 3rd in 1903, residents of Van Meter, Iowa, were living in fear.
It all began on a quiet Tuesday night, September 29, 1903, in the small town of Van Meter, Iowa. At around 1 a.m., Griffith, a local businessman, was driving home after a long day of work. As he approached the town's business district, something strange caught his eye. A bright, shining light perched on the roof of a building. This light was unfamiliar and out of place, making Griffith wonder if it was the work of a burglar. Cautiously, he moved closer to investigate. Just as he neared, the light suddenly leaped to the roof of a building on the opposite side of the street with unnatural speed, as if defying the laws of physics. Before Griffith could understand what he was witnessing, the light vanished entirely, leaving him in stunned silence. Though disturbed by the encounter, Griffith eventually made it home, unable to shake the eerie feeling. As he drifted off to sleep, little did he know that this strange light was just the beginning of a nightmare that would soon engulf his entire town. The doctor's encounter. The following night, the mysterious light returned. This time, it targeted Dr. Alcott, the town's local physician, who kept a small room at the back of his office. Around 12:30 a.m., the doctor was jolted awake by an impossibly bright light shining directly on his face. Unlike Griffith, Alcott wasn't content to wonder. He grabbed his shotgun and charged outside, determined to confront the intruder. What he saw, however, was beyond anything he could have imagined.
He ran outside with his gun and quickly learned that the source of the light was from a tall humanoid.
Standing before him was a creature that seemed to defy nature itself, a terrifying blend of man and beast. Its massive, bat-like wings loomed ominously, and a bright light shone from the center of its elongated, horn-like forehead. Shaken but resolute, Alcott fired at the creature, once, twice, and then 3 more times. To his horror, the bullets seemed to have no effect, as though the creature was immune to harm. With its glowing light unwavering, the beast simply carried on, unbothered by the attack. Alcott, now thoroughly terrified, retreated back into his office, his hands trembling as he tried to make sense of what he had just witnessed. He knew few would believe him, just as few had believed Griffith. Yet in the days to come, more sightings would leave the entire town in chaos. A guard's terrifying shift. On the 3rd night, the mysterious creature appeared again, this time targeting Clarence Peter Dunn, a night guard stationed at the town's bank. Peter, having heard rumors of the strange light and the creature attached to it, dismissed the stories as exaggerated tales. Convinced it was nothing more than a burglar with a flair for theatrics, Peter prepared himself to face the intruder.
So he felt that he should watch over the bank with his shotgun nearby. He had to make sure that he protected the town's funds, or the town could go bankrupt.
At 1 a.m., a strange sound pierced the night, described by Peter as resembling someone being strangled. Before he could investigate, an intense beam of light shot through the bank's window, nearly blinding him. As the light moved away, Peter finally caught a glimpse of the source. His blood ran cold as he saw the same monstrous being others had described, a massive winged creature with an otherworldly glow emanating from its forehead. Desperate to protect himself and the bank, Peter fired his gun through the window, shattering the glass. But just as with Dr. Alcott's encounter, the creature seemed completely unaffected and vanished into the night. The next morning, a search of the area turned up nothing except enormous three-toed footprints near the scene. Believing he had killed the beast, Peter dismissed the incident as resolved. But the town of Van Meter was about to learn just how wrong he was. The following day, the creature struck again, this time near the town's hardware and furniture store. O.V. White, the store's co-owner, was fast asleep when a strange rasping noise jolted him awake. Grabbing his gun, White peered outside and spotted the creature perched on a nearby telephone pole. A skilled marksman, White took aim and fired from just 15 feet away, fully expecting to wound or kill the beast. Instead, the creature turned its glowing horn-like light directly onto White, almost as if enraged by the attack. White's heart raced as the horrifying realization set in. This creature was beyond anything he could handle. Not only had his bullets failed to harm it, but he may have also angered a being with powers far beyond human understanding. A town in terror. By now, the once peaceful town of Van Meter was gripped by fear. Each night brought new sightings, each more harrowing than the last. The creature, with its unearthly light, enormous wings, and apparent invincibility, had turned their quiet lives into a waking nightmare. As the sightings continued, the townsfolk began to question what they were dealing with: a supernatural entity, an undiscovered species, or something even more terrifying. For the residents of Van Meter, this wasn't just a tale of mysterious lights or fleeting glimpses of an unknown creature. It was a story of survival, fear, and the desperate hope that their small town could return to the peace it once knew. But as the days went on, it became clear that the creature wasn't done with them yet. The stench of fear. As O.V. White faced the terrifying winged creature perched on the telephone pole, the air grew heavy with a nauseating stench that seemed to emanate directly from the beast. The smell was so overpowering that White nearly fainted. The last thing he remembered was the intense odor, filling his senses and rendering him momentarily unconscious. White's shot, however, had woken his neighbor Sidney Gregg, who rushed out into the street to investigate the commotion. What he saw was something straight out of a nightmare. Gregg observed the creature clinging to the telephone pole, using its beak to climb down like a parrot. Once it reached the ground, it stood fully upright, revealing its towering height, at least 8 feet tall. Gregg watched in horror as the creature swung the light emanating from its beak left and right, as though searching for something. Moments later, it flapped its massive, featherless wings and leapt into the air with powerful kangaroo-like bounds. Suddenly, the sound of a passing mail train echoed through the town, startling the creature. It paused, crouched low to the ground, seemingly unsure of what to make of the noise, but just as quickly, it sprang up and ran on all fours, disappearing into the abandoned coal mine on the edge of town. By this point, the stories of the Van Meter visitor had gone from whispered gossip to full-blown citywide panic. The townsfolk, once skeptical, were now consumed with fear. What was this enormous, unearthly being that bullets couldn't harm? Some described it as an antediluvian monster, a remnant of a prehistoric age. Others speculated it was a supernatural being. Regardless of its origins, the town was united in its dread of what might come next: the monster's lair. As fear swept through Van Meter, rumors began to circulate about the abandoned coal mine. The mine workers had long reported hearing eerie noises from deep within the shafts. One laborer described the sounds as the cries of Satan and his imps, a chilling description that now seemed less like hyperbole and more like a grim warning. On Friday night, as the strange noises grew louder, they drew the attention of J.I. Platt Jr., an operations manager at a nearby tile and brick factory that shared grounds with the mine. Armed with little more than curiosity, Platt cautiously ventured into the mine to investigate the source of the sounds. As he approached, the noises became deafening, echoing through the dark, stuffy tunnels. Suddenly, the creature emerged from the shadows at the mine entrance, its beak glowing with blinding light. Platt recoiled in terror, only to see a second, smaller creature appear behind it, also emitting a dazzling light. Together, the two beasts illuminated the mine with an otherworldly brilliance before taking flight, their massive wings carrying them effortlessly into the night. Though terrified, the townsfolk now had a crucial piece of information. The creatures were using the abandoned mine as their lair. Determined to rid themselves of the menace, the men of Van Meter gathered at the mine with firearms, prepared to end the nightmare once and for all. As dawn broke on Saturday morning, the larger of the two creatures returned, its enormous bat-like wings casting a foreboding shadow as it descended into the mine. The smaller creature followed close behind, their glowing beaks lighting the way. Without hesitation, the men opened fire, their bullets ringing out in the early morning air. But as before, the creatures seemed impervious. The gunfire only elicited a horrifying, unearthly screech before the beasts vanished into the depths of the mine, leaving behind a stench so foul it made the air almost unbreathable. The townsfolk were left shaken and frustrated. Their weapons had failed, and the creatures had once again evaded capture. Desperate to put an end to the terror, they devised a new plan. They would seal the mine, trapping the monsters inside forever. Unanswered questions. Though the mine was reportedly sealed, questions linger to this day. Did the townsfolk truly succeed in trapping the creatures? If so, did the beasts perish inside, or did they find another way out? And if someone were to reopen the mine today, would they uncover the skeletons of these mysterious beings, or something even more disturbing? Perhaps the most unsettling question of all is the nature of the Van Meter visitor itself. What was this half-man, half-bat monstrosity with its blinding beak-like light? Some have speculated it was a creature from a bygone era, a relic of a time when giants and monsters roamed the earth. Others believe it was a supernatural entity sent to punish or test the people of Van Meter. Whatever the truth, the story of the Van Meter visitor remains one of the most chilling and puzzling tales in American folklore. It is a reminder of the mysteries that still lurk in the shadows, waiting to emerge and challenge everything we think we know. Theory 1. A prehistoric creature. Some believe the Van Meter visitor was a prehistoric creature, possibly one that had been trapped in the abandoned coal mines and accidentally freed by a miner. This theory has two primary interpretations. The first aligns with the tales of the Iowa people, the region's original inhabitants, who spoke of humanoid beings known as thunderbirds. These mythical creatures were said to emit lightning from their eyes, a detail eerily similar to the glowing light emitted by the Van Meter visitor's beak. Interestingly, reports of creatures resembling thunderbirds or pterosaurs have surfaced in neighboring states like Wisconsin and Missouri. Could it be that one, or perhaps a pair, of these ancient beings migrated to Van Meter? The light emanating from the creature could be explained by bioluminescence, a natural phenomenon in which living organisms produce light. While rare in terrestrial animals, this trait is well documented in marine species, making it a plausible explanation for the Van Meter visitor's dazzling glow. But the thunderbird isn't the only possibility. Some suggest the Van Meter visitor might have been a dragon that crossed into our dimension. Dragons have been a recurring element in Iowa folklore. In 1887, 16 years before the Van Meter sightings, a man named Lee Quarter claimed to see a flying serpent with glowing eyes and a forked tongue in Bedford, Iowa. This creature allegedly crash-landed before taking flight again. Similar sightings occurred in Independence, Iowa in 1890, and as recently as 2005 in Burlington, Iowa, where a witness named Megan described a 10-foot-long snake-like beast with bat wings and a seahorse-shaped head. The similarities between these sightings and the Van Meter visitor are striking. All these creatures share an ability to fly, massive bat-like wings and enormous size. The antediluvian appearance of the Van Meter visitor, as described by townsfolk, fits perfectly within this prehistoric or dragon-like narrative. This could also explain its immunity towards bullets, as dragons and thunderbirds are often depicted as invulnerable in mythologies. Theory 2. The New Jersey Devil. Another theory posits that the Van Meter visitor might be the notorious Jersey Devil, a creature typically associated with the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. Sightings of the Jersey Devil have been reported since the 1800s and continue even today. However, there is a curious gap in these reports. Between 1903, the year of the Van Meter incidents, and 1909, there were no documented sightings of the Jersey Devil in New Jersey. Could it be that the creature decided to vacation in Iowa during this period? The Van Meter visitor and the Jersey Devil share a number of traits, including bat-like wings, nocturnal habits, and the ability to fly. Both creatures also have 4 limbs and have been described as terrifyingly large. While this theory is fascinating, it leaves questions unanswered, such as why the Jersey Devil would suddenly migrate to Iowa or how it could emit such an intense beam of light. Theory 3. An ultra-terrestrial entity. The ultra-terrestrial theory takes the Van Meter visitor into the realm of interdimensional beings. Unlike extraterrestrials, who hail from distant planets, ultra-terrestrials are believed to originate from other dimensions and enter our world through liminal places, interdimensional gaps often associated with crossroads, rivers, or other liminal spaces. Interestingly, Van Meter sits on a crossroads, a feature frequently linked to strange occurrences and hauntings. Supporters of this theory argue that the Van Meter visitor's imperviousness to bullets, its ability to emit blinding light, and its seeming disappearance into the coal mines support the idea of an interdimensional being. Van Meter itself has a long history of unusual sightings, from reports of werewolf-like creatures to hauntings at the old high school, Fat Randy's Bar and Grill, and even the Raccoon River. Could the Van Meter visitor be part of a larger pattern of ultra-terrestrial activity in the area? The creature's ability to vanish at will and withstand human weaponry fits well with the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis. If it truly came from another dimension, it might possess traits and technologies beyond human, allowing it to evade harm and return to its dimension at will. Theory 4. A UFO encounter. The final and perhaps most compelling theory is that the Van Meter visitor was related to a UFO encounter. This idea draws on the intense beam of light emitted from the creature's beak, a feature often associated with UFO sightings. Historical records from the late 19th century lend further credence to this theory. In 1897, just 6 years before the Van Meter sightings, residents of Iowa reported seeing a strange, bat-like UFO. One witness, a respected local druggist named J.K. Joder, claimed to see a glowing, bat-shaped object hovering in the sky. Upon closer inspection, he realized it was a vehicle occupied by beings speaking an unfamiliar language. The similarities between this 1897 UFO and the Van Meter visitor are striking. Both were associated with blinding lights, bat-like movements, and nocturnal appearances. The Van Meter visitor's imperviousness to bullets could also be explained by advanced extraterrestrial technology, which might render such beings immune to human weaponry. The lack of physical evidence, no blood, fur, or feathers, despite multiple gunshots, further aligns with the notion that this was no ordinary creature, but an advanced being of extraterrestrial origin. The UFO connection, missing time and unexplainable resilience. The Van Meter visitor's imperviousness to bullets is one of the most compelling arguments for the UFO theory. Consider this. Clarence Dunn, who fired at the creature with buckshot shells, used ammunition designed for maximum impact. Buckshot disperses multiple pellets in a scatter pattern, making it almost impossible to miss at close range. Yet, the creature soared away, unharmed, as though it was immune to physical attacks. Such resilience defies explanation in any known terrestrial animal. Adding to the mystery is the phenomenon of missing time, as experienced by O.V. White after his encounter with the visitor. The overpowering stench emanating from the creature was the last thing White remembered before he lost consciousness. When he awoke, hours had passed, and he had no recollection of what had transpired. This experience bears an uncanny resemblance to the infamous Betty and Barney Hill abduction case of 1961. In that incident, the Hills reported seeing a bright light that followed them. After stepping out of their car to observe it, they experienced a period of lost time and later recovered memories under hypnosis, revealing they had been abducted by aliens. The similarities between these accounts, the blinding lights, the lost memories, and the eerie sense of otherworldliness, lend credence to the idea that the Van Meter visitor could have been an extraterrestrial being or connected to UFO activity. The hoax hypothesis. Could it all be fake? Skeptics argue that the entire Van Meter visitor story might have been an elaborate hoax. The initial report appeared in the Des Moines Daily News, written by H. Phillips, not a journalist, but a contributor to the paper's opinion section. Critics suggest that Phillips might have concocted the tale to entertain readers or earn money. The second article published about the creature claimed the story had been exaggerated and speculated that the sightings were the work of a prankster. However, the hoax theory has significant flaws. If the creature was merely a costumed hoaxer, how did they survive multiple close-range gunshots? The visitor was described as 8 feet tall, far taller than the average man of the time, who stood about 5 feet 10 inches. A hoaxer would have needed stilts and an incredibly realistic costume, which would still not explain the creature's ability to fly or the foul stench that lingered after its appearances. Moreover, Phillips' story included the names of well-respected members of the community: merchants, a doctor, a salesman, a mine director, and a bank teller. These individuals stood to lose their reputations if the story was fabricated. If it was a hoax, why would they allow their names to be associated with it, unless they genuinely believed in what they had witnessed? An undiscovered species? Before jumping to extraordinary conclusions, Occam's razor suggests we should consider simpler explanations. Could the Van Meter visitor have been an unidentified species? Scientists estimate that 86% of Earth's species remain undiscovered, and extinction claims thousands, if not tens of thousands of species each year. Between 1903 and today, millions of species may have vanished without ever being documented. It's plausible that the visitor was a rare, unidentified bird or bat-like creature that evaded human study. Its nocturnal habits and elusive nature might explain why sightings were limited. However, this theory struggles to account for the visitor's imperviousness to bullets, its glowing light, and its apparent intelligence. A town's publicity stunt? Another possibility is that the story was a calculated publicity stunt devised by Van Meter's leaders to draw attention to their struggling town. In 1903, Van Meter was experiencing an economic downturn following the closure of its coal mine, which had been converted into a brick and tile factory. Publicity stunts were not uncommon at the time. For instance, in 1869, workers in Cardiff, New York, claimed to discover the petrified remains of a prehistoric giant. The giant was later revealed to be a carved gypsum statue buried as a hoax, but not before its discoverer made a small fortune charging admission fees. Could the Van Meter visitor have been a similar effort to boost the town's fortunes? While plausible, this theory fails to explain why the townsfolk would create a story so fantastical and terrifying. Additionally, the sheer number of credible witnesses who reported seeing the creature, many of whom had no apparent motive, makes the stunt theory less convincing. Mass hysteria, a shared delusion? Could the Van Meter visitor have been a product of mass hysteria, fueled by the anxieties of the time? The early 1900s were marked by post-Civil War recovery, rapid industrialization, and societal upheaval. Fear and uncertainty often breed strange phenomena, and it's possible the visitor was a projection of collective anxiety. However, cases of mass hysteria typically involve physical symptoms or behavior spreading through a community, rather than consistent descriptions of an external entity. The detailed, corroborated accounts of the Van Meter visitor, each aligning closely with the others, don't fit the typical patterns of hysteria. An unsolved mystery. Ultimately, the mystery of the Van Meter visitor remains unresolved. Whether it was a prehistoric creature, an interdimensional being, a UFO, or something entirely different, the events of 1903 continue to puzzle. Was it an undiscovered species lost to extinction, a desperate publicity stunt, or a genuine brush with the unknown? We may never know for certain. The abandoned coal mine where the creature was last seen remains sealed, its depths hiding secrets we may never uncover. What do you think? Was the Van Meter visitor a relic of a forgotten world, an alien invader, or a clever hoax?